You deserve a better draft room. Commissioner controls. At Drafty, we are building the world's most customizable draft room. A huge part of that is making sure the commissioner has all the tools necessary to fix oopsies, undo controversial decisions, and facilitate all the weird league traditions that make fantasy sports so much fun. Important settings that the commissioner can't change in draft include the number of teams, number of rounds, and the draft format itself. These settings should be configured during the draft room setup process. A handful of commissioner powers are available in every draft regardless of format, so let's cover those first. Universal Superpowers. The commissioner can pause the draft as often as needed and resume at any time, even if you need to come back and finish on another day. The commissioner can also modify the master time limit under draft settings in case things just need to move a little faster or slower. The settings panel is also where each draft participant can manage their user interface preferences. It contains dozens of options the commissioner can adjust or toggle on and off, including various timers, bidding mechanisms and rules, player nominations, and roster abilities. We will dive into the draft settings a little later, but for now let's crack open the Commish Toolbox and see what's inside. If these commissioner tools sound helpful, please like this video and subscribe to show your support for our efforts as an independent draft platform. Drop a comment if you have feedback, feature requests, or a draft horror story to share. Commissioner Toolbox. The Undo Last Auction tool should be self-explanatory. It moves the most recently drafted player back into the Undrafted Players pool and reimburses the team budget and roster. The Move Player tool scrolls down to the team rosters where the commissioner can touch or mouse over a player and click the Move button to open a new panel and select the player's new destination. Team Settings is where commissioner can rename teams, rearrange the draft order, and, in advanced and clubhouse drafts, manage each team's remaining budget and roster capacity. If you're drafting through a clubhouse, commissioner has extra abilities in the toolbox to import resources from it. Save any changes in the clubhouse first and use these tools to freshly import keepers, team assignments, and the player list as needed. Last but not least in the toolbox, the commissioner can end draft at any time in case the system does not recognize the end of your draft automatically, like when at least one team still has roster vacancy because max bid rule is turned off. Still with us? You must be a dedicated commissioner. Give yourself a raise. Pause the video if you need a potty break, otherwise let's turn our attention to turn-based tools. Snake Draft Superpowers. A commissioner using Drafty will never encounter a draft oopsie that can't be fixed. Imagine that a participant loses internet when they are on the clock, their timer runs out, and the draft goes on for another full round before everyone becomes aware of the situation. If he's feeling generous, the commissioner can pause the draft and rewind it all the way back to the disconnected user's draft pick and resume the draft once everyone is settled. In fantasy leagues that allow trading draft picks, it is easy for the commissioner to reassign draft picks to another team or vacate a draft pick entirely as needed for penalties or keepers that are not draft eligible. Even if two teams make a trade involving a player who has already been drafted, the commissioner can move the player across team rosters and reassign any upcoming draft picks as needed to facilitate the trade. Now let's turn our attention to Drafty's best-in-class option draft controls and other goodies in the draft settings. Option Draft Superpowers. While Snake and Round Robin Commissioner powers mostly concentrate on time management, pick swapping, and mistake fixing, option drafts are far more complex and therefore command dozens of micro-options to find the right balance for draft day flow. That's why we build a whole panel just for editing draft settings. As previously mentioned, the settings panel is where each individual team owner can manage their own preferences and see details about their server connection, which is important for those bastards who love to play chicken with the timer. The general settings give you a snapshot of how you configured the draft during setup. These options cannot be changed in draft, though in an advanced or clubhouse draft room you can edit individual team budgets and roster capacities via the toolbox. You could easily copy and paste the draft ID from here too, for sharing on social media to recruit participants or for getting league mates to join. Timer controls. Aside from pausing the whole draft, there are many ways to speed up or slow down the action within the draft settings. The commissioner can adjust the master time limit, the reset threshold for when a bid comes in at the last second, and even the buffer time in between player auctions. There are also controls for editing or disabling the more time please and fast forward buttons. Player nominations. Drafty engineers have designed 5 unique nomination formats that can be deployed for any auction draft, and commissioner can toggle between them under draft settings to find the best fit for your league. We will cover nomination formats at length in a separate video, and you can read up on them in our documentation at draftysports.com. Bidding mechanisms. Bidding controls are equally diverse and versatile. Commissioner can define the max bid rule, which dictates whether team budgets reserve enough money to fill their roster or allows teams to spend freely. The stewardship rule is available in silent auction draft rooms and makes the winning bidder pay only $1 more than the second highest submitted bid. The commissioner can manipulate all kinds of other bidding mechanisms, like adjusting the minimum bid and bid increment, and disallowing opening bids higher than minimum. Even the flash bid button can be removed to simplify the bidding process for auction novices. In a silent auction draft, top submitted bids are revealed at the end of each auction, but commissioner can turn this off in the draft settings, and can also change who gets a second chance to bid on a player in the event of a tie. Roster superpowers. In the freeze tag nomination format, commissioner can deny teams the ability to undo a player nomination if that player auction has yet to begin. There is also a crazy option that evolved from a custom request that allows dropping a player from a team roster mid-draft. This feature is rarely used, but quite fun when used in tandem with the max bid rule being set to overspend, which you can read about in our docs. Add-ons and upgrades. Last but not least, the settings panel contains add-on configurations that require activation, like the ability to switch draft formats via the hybrid draft upgrade, and the branding add-on, which lets the commissioner add a custom logo and background images to the draft room. Add-ons will be discussed at length in a separate video, and you can read all about them in our docs at draftysports.com. Our mission at Drafty is to innovate online draft rooms and make draft day the best day of the year. If you have any questions, just leave a comment, or else you can open a mock draft at draftysports.com to give commissioner controls the go. For tech support, please use the help panel in draft for fastest response time. Thanks for watching and happy drafting!